Obviously, a lot happening with AI and email, but what would you say is probably the most overhyped thing in AI at the moment?
Experience tells me that the thing that you think is overhyped ends up being underhyped and vice versa as well.
Do you see AI sort of completely taking the whole process?
AI can help you do what you've been doing, but it can also help you do something that you've never done before.
What's maybe some of the biggest changes you've seen in that time?
Email keeps on going and it keeps on performing and looks like it will continue to do,
Yeah.
even with AI, maybe even because of AI.
Hey everyone, Richard here. Welcome back to the Ecom at One podcast. Today, I'm joined by Michael Duxbury from Digital. Now, Michael spent over 15 years in CRM and email marketing and marketing tech, so he's got a front row view of how this space has changed and where AI is taking it next. In this episode, we unpack what AI is really changing in email and CRM marketing, where brands are already getting value, and why the biggest opportunity right now is using it to support better segmentation, personalization, reporting, and campaign creation without losing that human touch behind it. So whether you're trying to get more from your CRM email marketing, improve your customer journey, or make sense of where AI actually fits in your marketing, this episode is packed with useful insights. Now, do me one big, quick favor. Hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. Let's get into it. Hey, Michael, how are you doing?
Hi, Richard. Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. It looks very sunny where you are. It looks like I'm in some sort of dungeon or something.
It's South London. I'm in glorious in South London today.
So we're actually in England and it is sunny, yeah?
We're in England and it's sunny 2 days in a row. What's going on?
Wow. Fingers crossed for the weekend, eh?
Okay, we'll be waiting by then.
I texted before you came on. I texted my wife and said, "Right, I think we might have a barbecue at the weekend." So I might have jinxed it. And maybe.
Oh, you doomed it for all of us now.
Probably. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know we're going to talk about a topic and a couple of topics that are very close to our agency's heart here and our team. So very excited to have you on. Thanks for coming on the show. Now, I know you've been in sort of CRM and email marketing and tech for quite some time. I think more than 15 years at Digital.
Yeah, more. I mean, longer than I care to remember, to be honest.
Yeah, that is a long time, isn't it? It must be an absolutely fabulous firm to work for.
It is a great company to work for, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously 15 years, I mean, that is a long time, isn't it, in one company, and obviously one company doing, a specific thing, and obviously a lot of change, no doubt, and seen a lot of things as we all have if we've been in the industry that long. But, what's maybe some of the biggest changes you've seen in that time?
Well, I mean, so I've been working on Digital for all of that time, and it is essentially unrecognizable now as opposed to what it was 15 years ago. Of course, it was very much an old school email marketing tool 15 years ago, and that's all we did.
Yeah.
And now we describe ourselves as a cross-channel CDXP. So we're both CDP, we do the data side of things, and we do the X, which is the experience side of things. So we essentially now do everything that allows brands to communicate with their consumers using the data that they hold on the channels that are most effective to them. So the product is hugely evolved compared to 15 years ago.
Yeah. So 15 years ago was upload a list, write some text, send an email, maybe. That's maybe it is. But
beautifully simple. 15 years ago.
And obviously it works. It worked.
You know what? The funny thing is that what worked back then does still form a cornerstone of what most marketers do today. Email, in that sense, has been remarkably resilient. In that, email itself has actually changed very little in those 15 years. Lots of other things have changed around it, but email keeps on going and it keeps on performing and looks like it will continue to do, even with AI, maybe even because of AI.
Yeah. I think it's enabling companies to do more, isn't it? Where maybe they're a bit afraid, unable, not sure, or not using. The amount of people we look at there do a tech stack audit and subscriptions or no subscriptions, but even paying for software that maybe isn't getting used. Email software, for example, and obviously AI helping now to ensure that tech is getting used a bit more potentially, and that is one angle, of course. So I remember, like, I think maybe 20 odd years ago, emailing and very much, building lists of, when I was in the computer biz, selling computers before this, my first sort of gig. And it was very much, I would say we almost built that business on email marketing. Because it was a small amount of customers, but they were very high value because computers were very, very expensive back then. So we were selling computers, but the ability to send an email and then ultimately then get an order very, very quickly. But we were taking orders on the phone at the time, so they would send the email and then they would phone up. So we would send the emails, and you wouldn't see the orders come in at that point at the beginning. We did later on, but the phones would ring. And I guess it's still an element of that.
Still do that today. Yeah. Funnily enough, I mean, we're talking about me being at Digital for 15 years. Actually, been there longer, because before Digital was Digital, we were a web design and development agency. And we built e-commerce stores for people. We built websites for people, particularly in the not-for-profit sector. So, I used to be involved in building e-commerce stores for the likes of WaterAid and Fair Trade Foundation, charities like that. And it was the effectiveness of email marketing and our clients at the time asking us to build something that sent out these newfangled HTML emails that you can track opens and clicks on. So we built it. We built it for a charity, and then we built it for another one, and built it for another one. And eventually we said to ourselves, we should probably stop rebuilding this every time and turn it into a product. And that is essentially where Digital all began. So it actually was born out of e-commerce and then e-commerce.
Using it for yourselves,
and using it for ourselves and for our clients. Yeah. And then eventually it took over. And actually the web design agency, we let that go. And we just became Digital and grew up from there.
Yeah. That's great. That's great to hear that. Thank you for sharing the sort of founding story. Yeah, no, I didn't know that. I hear similar stories quite a lot where founders of agencies, then they start building a SaaS, and then that SaaS becomes something that's way more than the agency and goes on.
I think Wish Kramer's example is Basecamp, right? Or 37 Signals. I think they had a very similar story to us at a very similar time. For your listeners that know Basecamp, maybe they use Basecamp.
Yeah. So obviously that's going back 15, 20 years ago, or 15 years ago in this case. But and obviously now, email and CRM marketing. There's so many different things we can discuss. But I'm very keen to sort of hone on specifically some of the AI piece. Obviously AI. We're probably not done an episode for the last year now without mentioning the word, and obviously some very specific episodes.
I don't think any podcast has had an episode without mentioning AI.
I think I'd struggle to do one now if I could. It was like a keyword bingo that I can't say. It's going to be. So obviously a lot happening with AI and email, but what would you say is probably the most overhyped thing in AI at the moment?
Whoa. You know what, Richard? I've been in and around technology long enough to know that's a dangerous game to play, making predictions like that. And experience tells me that the thing that you think is overhyped ends up being underhyped, and vice versa as well. So I'm frequently wrong on that, unless it's in the metaverse, which we can probably all agree that that's gone beyond being overhyped, because that's already dead. I don't know. That was an easy one, but outside of that, it's a tricky one. But when it comes to AI, and this is not specific to email or marketing, this is just in general, I think probably the things to look at it's not the technology, it's the solutions that people are talking about that happen to use that technology. And there's a use case that is used time and time again. You'll see it in people's product videos. You'll see it everywhere. And that is essentially AI taking over purchasing journeys on behalf of consumers. Whether that is buying a holiday, as in, I want to go somewhere hot for 2 weeks for a family of 4, go away and book it for me, please. I mean, AI can do that, right? That bit's not overhyped. You can absolutely go away and do that. Or whether it's a lawnmower. I want lawnmower, it needs to be cordless, go away and buy it for me, and it turns up the next day. Again, AI can do that. I am not yet convinced, though, that is that's not what consumers actually want. And I think that can be dangerous to overlook the non-technical side of things like this. Because I think, with some notable exceptions, generally speaking, people dare I say it, enjoy being involved in the purchasing experience. They like
certain items, yes.
certain items. I love items. I mean, holidays is an obvious one. I like looking at pictures of sunny places and deciding which sunny place I want to go to.
And there's so many variables, isn't there, with a holiday, and so many things you don't know because you've not been to the place. Whereas if you're buying something that you buy regularly, that's
and things that you don't know up front, so you wouldn't know to type them into a prompt, but that you learn as part of the journey of buying the thing that crop up. So your requirements can evolve and change. So I think when you look at a solution, you've got to look at the technology side, yes, but you've also got to look at the human side and try and figure out which ones are gonna take off. But again, I can't stress enough, it's a dangerous game to play because no one can predict the future.
I think this is it. I think there's obviously so much, isn't there? And if we step away from email for a minute and just AI as a whole in e-commerce, for example, no matter what topic we're talking about, we could list 1,000 things to look at, pretty much, or 1,000, hundreds of tools and so forth. But it's just having that, I think, that sort of mindset of, right, we've got to be inquisitive. We've got to put time, but how much resource do you put in as a company, as a founder, as a team of marketers, or tech people within the business? What do you allocate? Have you got any thoughts on that? Sort of what for maybe the founders and the people with the purse strings that are listening about their sort of approach to approaching AI?
Well, yeah, certainly. But I mean, from a product point of view, to build on what you were saying there, we do all those things, but also we've learned we have to really look at how people are using the AI tools that we build. And what we've learned is that they don't always use what you think they're going to use, and they don't always use it in the way you think they're going to use it. Now, that's true of just about anything, but it seems to be particularly true for AI. For example, AI and email is actually a really interesting example, because AI can either enhance and augment or completely replace nearly every part of email marketing, from the strategy to the ideation, to the content generation, to the sending, to the deliverability, to the analytics, to understanding the analytics, and then bringing that into a loop and doing the whole thing. And maybe this comes back to predicting the future and it being quite hard. That may happen. It may not. But there are component parts that exist today. But what's really interesting, when you read the blogs and you listen to the podcasts, there's a lot of talk about using AI and segmentation and personalization, and there's lots of really good, intelligent, powerful things you can do that. But what we're finding in reality is that although people are using those things, they're using AI to achieve those things, the most common thing that people use AI for in email is essentially content generation, and for it to act as a bit of a sidekick to augment what they're doing, which is actually one of the least advanced use cases of AI. But it's probably one of the most accessible, and so we definitely see people start there, and then they start to graduate on.
So they're starting as like using it as an assistant, and getting getting ideas, getting first, maybe second drafts of things and ideas, and especially on the content side, like you say. But then that we probably could have the same conversation 2 years ago. That bit. Really. So it's like the advancement more recently, and the things that you're able to do with email platforms are the ones that are maybe not getting the adoption more so at the moment.
Yeah, and that some of that may just be time and people becoming familiar with those tools. It might also be that users themselves need to figure out how they want AI to work for them. You may have bosses that want one thing, but you've got users on the cold face that want something else. And then what we're seeing at the moment is that people are very, very open to AI when they feel like it is helping them. If they feel like it's helping them do a better job or do the best job, then they will absolutely use those things. So that's why, for example, when someone is editing an email campaign, the number one thing when it comes to AI that they are most likely to do, head and shoulders above anything else, is to ask AI for what we call a campaign commentary. So it critiques what they've written and make suggestions. That's the number one thing that they do. And that, again, that follows that same pattern of I want AI to be there to help me.
Assist, yeah.
And assist, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so we've got obviously quite a few advancements, shall we say, as a bit of an understatement, that are sort of under the hood that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of and not using. What are some of the other areas then that maybe are underutilized quite a lot that maybe .digital have that aren't getting used?
Well, it's not that not getting used. Everything's getting used, just to a greater or lesser degree, and you can see different patterns over time. I think one of the key things is when you are multi-channel. Well, if it was just email, you used to create an email and you were done. It's nice and simple. Now you're multi-channel, and generally speaking, a brand these days will be mixing their channels up. And generally, you see them doing that based on where they believe the biggest value lies. So if you have a customer that has a high customer lifetime value or predicted high customer lifetime value, mix the channels up, you can afford to spend a little bit more on those people. So you might send them an SMS or maybe a WhatsApp these days in addition to an email or instead of an email, which means that for any given campaign, whether it's a one-off product launch or whether it's an ongoing abandoned browse or an abandoned cart campaign, you aren't going to have one piece of content now. You're going to have lots of pieces of content, and it may even start on your website for different channels. Exactly. So you might have up to 5 of them. And so where AI can really help is make you create once, and it generates the different versions for you. So, for example, you can create an email, so you can create an SMS or an MMS from an email campaign. So you write the content once, it figures out what you're trying to do and creates that content for you. As a marketer, you can go in and you can tweak it. Of course, you can edit it, modify it, and make sure you're happy with it. But it's just acting as an assistant and doing that heavy lifting for you. So you're not there copying and pasting code and figuring out which bits to edit, essentially.
Yeah. I know our team use that sort of functionality a lot. And obviously, if you're not using that functionality, it's like it's pretty crazy, isn't it? That if you're still doing things like that manually, really.
Yeah, I mean, if I was setting up a multi-channel campaign, which I don't do a lot, but sometimes we sort of simulate things. I wouldn't build a multi-channel campaign without using that tool, for example. It just wouldn't enter my mind to do so anymore.
So where do you see it get? We're obviously the platforms have evolved incredibly. We use several. As an agency with different clients. Obviously, we've got our preferred options but obviously different clients come to us with different platforms and so forth. So we've got an array of platforms that we work on and an array of tech that's obviously within those platforms around AI and so forth. And certain things are better than others, shall we say? And certain platforms and so forth. I think it's like, where do you see AI sort of completely taking the whole process? At the moment, obviously, as an agency, it's like, should I be concerned? That obviously we manage, a lot of email campaigns for a lot of clients. What do you see with that? Sort of, do you see AI completely taking over everything? Where does the human, where does the agency, where do the teams of marketers fit?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a predicting the future question again, isn't it? It's hard to say for sure. I think it absolutely could. Again, it comes back down to what people want. I think there's always going to be brands with marketing teams that want finite control over it. But I think where what you're saying comes into its own will be for very small companies, maybe those without or with small marketing teams, or maybe with no marketing teams. They will then be able to lean onto AI to automate a lot more of the whole flow. I can see that happen, particularly because there are basics, and you'll know this more than anyone, that every brand will want to get set up. The things you do first, right? Which are your welcome program, and I mentioned them already: abandoned cart, abandoned browse, all those kind of things. Those can absolutely be automated by AI. They could identify who to send the content to. They could create the content, and they could split test, make edits, and do the full circle, allowing marketers at that point to not have to worry about the basics. They actually just get given the results and how it's performing, and every so often they might want to step in, or they might want to override something and go, you know what, I want to try a crazy experiment to see if this increases my results or not. But otherwise, they can leave it in the background, because no one wants to be forever twiddling with an abandoned cart email. That's not what people want to be doing. But what people do want to be doing, and what we see time and time again, is the creative thought, is the ideation. Like marketers like that bit of the job.
Yeah.
They do not like trying to debug HTML. That bit's boring for most people. And so I can see AI taking the heavy lifting out of the basics, allowing marketers to concentrate on that more creative side.
And more around the strategy, understanding the brand, more not thinking time, but more time to create strategy.
Exactly that. And then using AI to help those ideas come to life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we are working on, we have an MCP server at the moment, as you might imagine, and we are investigating at the moment the ability to build emails, .digital compatible emails. So emails that you then be able to edit within our editor and know who you are and your data and your brand via the MCP server, which is another way of saying that you'd be using your AI tool of choice. That might be Claude, it might be ChatGPT, and you may have that plugged into other MCP servers with the other tools you're using. It might be HubSpot for CRM, whatever it might be. So it knows about you, and you can come up with an idea. Go, you know what? Can you create me that campaign for me? Like, what could that look like? Or maybe even just, can you create 3 different versions for me? It will go away and do that. And then you go to your .digital account and they will do that. And you can go in and you can edit them and you can tweak them from there. And you can adjust the copy and you can change the imagery. But you're not starting from scratch.
No.
So I think it being involved in every step of the journey, yes. Taking over completely, probably not just yet.
No, that's good to hear. We're okay, guys. But now
I think we are. I think we're okay.
I think we'll always be okay, won't we? At the end of the day, you know. I'm sure we'll be doing another episode in 3. If I contact you in 3 years for another episode and you don't respond, then
you might get a response from my AI agent.
Yeah. Yes. Michael is busy now. Oh, sorry.
Maybe I'll be busy on the beach because it's doing everything for me. That'd be okay.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. Yeah, I think there's you know, it's obviously using it, but also, you know, some very smart human beings that need to have input on a lot of things rather than just leaving it. So
fundamentally, AI is a tool. It's a technology and it is a tool. And like all technology and all tools, as a race, if that doesn't sound too big, we need to decide how we want to use those tools to the best effect. And I think augmenting what we do and making what we do better is probably where it
and as you say, that those merchants that maybe the slightly smaller side of the merchants, you know, or that are sort of maybe having challenges to get something off the ground and so forth. It's a massive enabler, isn't it, to help them?
You
know, for minimal or no cost if they're already subscribing, sort of thing, but just not using and not implementing. Then
or maybe not knowing what to do. And again, it can essentially AI can act as a little bit of a tutor and say these are things you should be doing, both generically, like this is the basics, you should be doing this, but also I understand your business. I'm looking at your data, and here are some bespoke things or custom things that I think you should be doing, and acting as a teacher.
Yeah, no, great. So segmentation, I think that's a topic I don't think we've done an email episode without talking about segmentation. You know, how can businesses use AI to really, really sort of step change their segmentation?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, because segmentation as a science, art form, maybe a bit of both, has been around for a long, long time, right? You're not going to buy a tool like ours that doesn't allow you to do it. And AI, you can do 2 things, I think. AI can help you do what you've been doing, but it can also help you do something that you've never done before. So in terms of segmenting on, if you think about what you do now, you segment on the data that you have on someone, and you segment on the behaviors that you know about that person. So pages that they browse on your website, pieces of content that they've interacted with or not interacted with, products they bought, what have they done in the past? AI can use that data, and it can probably maximize the usefulness of it. And it might be able to find very valuable niches within that data for you to create campaigns and target. But where it gets really interesting, in my opinion, is that it can do all of those things, but it can also start predicting the future, essentially, which has been really hard to do before. So it doesn't just look at what's happened in the past. It can say, okay, well, based on what I know about this person, and based on what I know about other people that have previously looked like this person and what they have gone on to do and what others have gone on to do, then actually I predict that this individual person is probably going to be requiring this type of product now or will be in a week, or they may have a very high chance of purchasing this product over here. I think that's where AI is going to come into its own.
That's very good, isn't it? I think that's very exciting. That sort of prediction piece. You know, there's tools that have done it in the past in a way, but not in that depth sort of
Wrong
thing.
at all the breadth. Yeah, exactly. Just the
Yeah.
sheer scale of it and the data it can use is far more. Because you're right. I mean, go back 5 years or so, and by 6, 7 years maybe. I mean, well, to give you an idea, we launched product recommendations back in 2018. I think it was about 8 years ago now. But it wasn't using any of the current generation AI models. It was using homegrown, homespun machine learning models. And in some situations, we still use those models because they do still outperform because they're very neat and moving it. But where the new AI models really excel is, as you say, is the depth and the breadth of the data that they can use and the types of predictions they can make.
Very, very exciting. So, obviously, as a brand, and obviously somebody that's been in the trenches for a long time, you know, in email, obviously work with a lot of brands.
You're making me feel very old, Richard.
You know, sorry, I won't harp on about that, but I feel like, you know, we're in a similar, you know, we've been doing this a while. Both of us, of course.
We've both been doing it a while.
Both of us.
We're both ancient.
Now, out of school, straight into. Obviously, you've come across a lot of the other tech that's out there, and the different tools and tool sets and so forth. I think, obviously, you know, your own .digital platform and so forth, you know, fabulous platform. You know, we've got a lot of clients on it and so forth. But any other tech that you'll recommend to our listeners to sort of explore around email marketing, or is it just you only need one tool? You know, is there other things that I think?
No, you don't just need one tool. Mostly because we sell more than one tool. No, as I could be cheapy and I could recommend Alia. So we recently acquired Alia, which is an audio.
There's an audio about that. Yeah.
Maybe we'll come on to that bit. So I'll resist the urge to recommend that. There are so many tools, and I think even the classics that are still valuable. You know, Google Analytics, for example.
Yeah.
Every so often we speak to a customer and they're not using Google Analytics, or you know, a customer success rep speaks to them and they're not using Google Analytics. So step number one is like, don't worry about .digital for a second. Let's get yourself set up with Google Analytics because it does a great job of marrying.
It is amazing, isn't it? That people still don't.
It is.
Or it's even more amazing when you log into their .digital account and they've been paying you guys for 2 years and they haven't logged in for 2 years.
We work hard to make sure that doesn't happen. But
no, that doesn't happen. But you know, obviously with certain platforms it can happen. It does happen. You know, we see it. You know, we see it. They've sort of go in and set things up, and then but that's, you know, no fault of like, you know,
you bought it.
It's just you know, we're all guilty of certain subscriptions, but it's it's like, oh, let's get this.
It tends not to happen with your core things like, you know, your e-commerce system, or your CMS if you're using your CRM, or your marketing automation platform. They tend to be the ones that people log into all the time, of course. But yeah, Google Analytics has always done and continues to do a really good job of joining all your data together, so you can see trends of people moving from your website, and obviously you can track emails on it. Not everyone knows that you can track emails and link them back to overarching campaigns within Google Analytics. That's super powerful. There are also, of course, many tools that can that run adjacent to e-commerce functionality. So, for example, if you're in a lot of meetings and you are taking notes and actions out of the meetings, there's lots of tools that automate that now. So Granola is a great one, for example. It runs in the background. It's really innovative in how it works. It doesn't join your Zoom calls as a guest, which I always think is a bit weird because
you get more meeting AIs than you do people nowadays.
You do, yeah. And we've probably all seen the memes, right? When someone joins a meeting and they're the only human there, and the rest of the Zoom call is AI bots. That's a bit strange. But what Granola does is it interfaces with the audio directly. So it's just always listening to what's going on, making sense of what you said, writing up notes for you, identifying actions, emailing them to you.
I've actually not heard of that, actually. That's that specific one. Yeah, that's good. Really good.
It's a great example, again, of AI working in the background as an assistant for you and just kind of not getting in the way, but helping you and letting you concentrate on the things that you want to be concentrating on. She's not writing up meeting notes. Let's face it. So I'm not affiliated with them, but go and check it out.
Yeah. Okay. Any others?
You know, there's so many. as I say, let's talk about Alia for a second, because Alia's, you should never ignore top of funnel when you're doing digital marketing, particularly audience growth that comes from a tool like Alia, which is essentially it's asking for pop-ups, but in a really intelligent AI-powered way, is growing your list with first-party data, but essentially zero-party data. So data that is being given to you as a brand with the express permission to be used for what you want to use it for, which is the most valuable type of data. It's the data that you really, really want. So if you're not using Alia or a tool like Alia, then you really should be. But where Alia comes into its own is again, it comes back to AI working as an assistant. It can set up split tests on your behalf for you. It can monitor results for you. It can make changes to those split tests, so it can experiment on its own in the background and report back to you on the results. Once you've got a pop-up live, it's not static. It doesn't just live there forever until you suddenly remember it and go, oh, I should probably update this to capture this extra information. Let's start capturing mobile numbers now because I've just thought of it. It's doing that for you. It's running in the background and it's experimenting with things like that and giving you the most valuable bit.
That smart triggering that you'd refer to,
smart, exactly that,
Yeah, I think it still amazes me the sort of lack of sort of forms and pop-ups, etc. It's obviously if you're building the list, but you're building a list then with the intent side of it, with the AI.
And the experimentation with it. You've got to experiment. I mean, having a pop-up that just says, give us your email address 10% off. You'll get some people do that. You will, and it will be better than nothing. Don't get me wrong. But different things work better for different brands depending on where you are. So again, with like Alia does a really good job. You could gamify the experience, for example. You can have the spin to win. You can do other things.
Spin to win had a very popular couple of years, isn't it? I think spin to win.
Exactly. And there are others, and you know what? Techniques like that or tactics like that work for some brands and not for others.
Is there one or two specific ones that you've seen in maybe specific niches? We've got a lot of niches we cover off. Any specific? Obviously, you've got the spin to win. It's been very, very popular, and then you've got obviously different types of pop-ups that different any sort of
What I've seen that's actually really smart. Again, this doesn't work for every brand. It depends on what you're selling. Is not just to ask for essentially PII, which is what's your name, what's your email address, your mum, again, give them to me, and asking all the time, is actually to ask slightly different questions. Ask about them. So, for example, skincare brands sometimes do this. They ask about you as a person, as an individual, what is your skin type like? What are you trying to sell? What do you want to get
quiz
out of it?
type?
Exactly that. Exactly that. So it means that it feels a bit more personal, but it is literally more personal because you can then tailor your responses based on that information. So if someone has oily skin, you don't make a product recommendation that says, hey, here's a product for dry skin. And so it works top of funnel, but it flows all the way through the experience.
And then in terms of segmenting those signups, it's obviously very, very powerful, isn't it? Straight away, you're not sending them like you just said.
It's a classic. I always think that when you're doing a tactic like that, it has to work for you as a brand, but you have to think about the consumer as well. They are on the other side of this. So the best things work for both. They work for the brand and they work for the consumer. And that's a really good example of that happening there. It's just the brand gets what they want, but also the consumer gets a better experience fundamentally.
So I think if you're still with us and you're thinking, do you know what? Our pop-ups, we've had that spin the wheel on the website for 3 years. You need to have a chat with the guys at Alia.
Experiment.
Okay. Experiment, mix it up, and that sort of smart triggering that will change.
Exactly.
So something I'm interested in personally is WhatsApp, and WhatsApp marketing seems to have really taken a good a real sort of slice of the market. What sort of things are you seeing there, and any sort of tips to our listeners around how to get the most and best out of WhatsApp marketing?
Yeah, WhatsApp's a really interesting channel. It is young. So in a sense, actually, if you go now, you'd probably still be benefiting from first mover advantage, to be honest, because WhatsApp is not a busy place when it comes to brands for most consumers. But the biggest tip is probably just to get started. Don't it's easy to overthink these things sometimes. We talk about AI or not, so it's easy to overthink and just get started. So, for example, WhatsApp can be very cost effective. It's a slightly unusual billing model. We don't pay per conversation, etc. But it can work really well. So, for example, if you are collecting email and mobile number when people sign up, it comes back to experimenting. Experiment with sending a welcome WhatsApp rather than an email, or both. Experiment with including their incentive, whether it's a 10% off, whether it's something else, via WhatsApp.
On WhatsApp. Yeah.
On WhatsApp. Otherwise, we see it working really well for quite targeted campaigns. So you probably don't want to be sending WhatsApp every other day, like you might do with an email. But if you have a new collection being launched, for example, or you run a VIP club, this is where this is particularly powerful. You can communicate with your VIP club over WhatsApp. Feels a bit more special at the moment. It gives them access to behind the scenes, access to a sale 24 hours early, all that kind of stuff. When we see brands do that, that's where we see engagement really, really peak. So think about experiment, don't overthink it, but also think about what you're doing. What can we do that's a little bit different? What do we do that's going to be high value to a consumer?
So maybe some of the cool things you're doing on email, you're just not doing on WhatsApp, that you're probably going to get better conversion on WhatsApp, or you're going to get better opens for sure.
Well, I mean, some people see it's not just opens, it is click-through rates all the way through to ROI on products, depending on what they do, and really some really good results on WhatsApp.
Yeah, it's something we need to do more of, as an agency. So I know we've got some clients using it, but some are a little bit less open to using it. So yeah.
Again, so advantage.
Well, that's back to the AI thing, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. So we covered quite a lot of ground there. We talked obviously a lot about AI and where that's going and where it is, and sort of testing and trying and trialing things, and don't be afraid. And and especially those guys that maybe aren't doing a lot with their email. It's going to give you a real boost, get you up and running. But ultimately, obviously, it can do a lot more than that. Where do you see? Is there anything you could share maybe from that that you're really excited about over the sort of roadmap over the next sort of 12 months that maybe Digital's got coming through, or some things that you're aware of that you're really excited about?
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of teams that are working exclusively on AI and AI experimentation. And of course, the best thing about one of the best things about my job is I get to see all the crazy things that they're doing and come up with ideas as well. But we do this fully in the knowledge that not all of those things will work out, or not all of those things we will bring to market, right? So just like I'm saying, hey, if you own an e-commerce brand, you need to experiment. We're experimenting too, and we have had things that we've thought, what, it's not quite right. It's not there yet. It's, maybe the technology's not quite there.
I can hold my hand up.
We're holding it well. It's what it's all about. Really. There are other things that we were slightly less sure about, but actually have proven to be not very, very useful, but also tech up's been huge. So an example of that recently is that we extended. So I talked already about how the generative AI side of the platform is the most used for us. It's gone up about 180% year-on-year growth. But it's essentially given very similar content to all of our customers. Not always. So, for example, if you did a subject line, it is also always looked at your previous subject lines and worked out what worked and what hasn't worked and adapted. But otherwise, it was sort of using the same technology for everyone. What we launched last month was what we're calling tone of voice. So you can now, when you're onboarding, you can give .digital your brand guidelines or your tone of voice documents. And you may even, if you're a big brand, you may have a giant PDF with everything written down to the nth degree, and you can just feed that in and it learns from it. Or you may be a much smaller brand and you don't have that at all, but you do have a website, and you may have paid someone to write your copy for you, may have worked on it yourself, overnight, getting it just right. And it can learn from that. You can essentially just give it anything that you have that demonstrates what your brand sounds like. That means that everything that it generates from now on, whether it's a subject line or it's rewriting an email or it's generating an SMS like from an email, as I would say, everything that it's creating uses that tone of voice. You don't have to worry about it. You just use it in the background. And we've seen extraordinary take up of that in just a month. Because I think it just shows brands are really like, we love the tool, but it has to work for us.
Yeah.
We're seeing that a lot.
It's trained on their tone. It's trained on that. It's a very specific brand, similar to what we do in SEO. To be fair, we create projects in different tools, and we train it on the tone.
Maybe can come up with very different outputs depending on the brand, and that is important.
Yeah.
What we're working on now, we are very much experimenting with agents, and we're quite old-fashioned maybe, in that we don't want to release stuff to market unless we know it's right. So we're still working on our agents, but we're working on different ones. We're taking, for example, there will be a segmentation agent, which does a lot of what we've been talking about, which is really exciting. So it takes your data, yes, but it also predicts the future. You can prompt it and say, actually, and give me quite specifically, you can say, give me everyone that's bought from our Lincoln branch in the last 3 weeks, and it can just go up and do it. Or you can be a lot more like, give me anyone that is showing a propensity to buy this type of product in the next 3 months, and it will go away and do that as well. So one's rearward-looking, one's forward-looking.
Yeah.
I mentioned it already. We're looking at content creation agents, either in use in .digital or via an MCP server, so via your tool of choice. And the third one we're looking at is an analytics agent and a reporting agent. So again, works in 2 different ways. One is like, you can prompt it to say, what was the open rate of my last campaign? And it will give you that easy. But you can also get it to work in the background and make suggestions and say, so you can log in one day and it'll go, hey, we've noticed that, or I've noticed that. Actually, your performance has dipped in the last 6 months, and we think it's because of this. Therefore, we recommend you try this. And then ultimately, would you like us to do that? And then show you.
Would you like to set that up and
would you like
sell this? Create this? Yeah.
And so the big question then is, you've got these agents, and that's all really useful. Do they stay as separate agents? Do we end up with one big agent that is doing work on your behalf? Again, predicting the future is very hard. So we will wait and see where the technology leads us, but also where our users lead us.
Yeah, very exciting, isn't it? It's literally, I think, the most exciting time I've had or been involved. Just what you're saying there. This seems very similar to what we're doing here, but obviously from an SEO performance perspective, SEO, PPC, so forth. Building various agents, and then obviously test, MCP, it's the world we're in, isn't it? It's the whole new language that's just appeared in the last 12 months.
And it's exciting because the possibility, it's a cliche, but the possibilities are essentially endless. And if you look forward even more, we're building emails. Already we are seeing, for example, Apple email summaries. We're essentially seeing AI reading an email and summarizing it for you. So we could be in a position whereby AI is creating an email, and my AI is involved in sending the email and identifying the audience with that email, and then AI is also reading the emails. And at the moment, a human is jumping in and reading that summary and making a decision off the back of it. But of course, what's the future? The future might well be an AI reads the email and then does something off the
and then just summarizes. And
you might be able to say that I'm really interested in this pair of shoes. Keep an eye out for when the 10% offer comes in, and when it reads that there's a 10% offer on an email, it will go ahead straight away and purchase those shoes.
Yeah, I mean, you can sort of do that now. I'm not referring to email, but you can do that with with Claude and ChatGPT. Right, look out for this. Tell me when this is this. And
exactly. So what, as marketers, it may well be that the emails we send become a core part of that. I mean, we may need to change strategies off the back of it. Sometimes we may want that to happen. Sometimes we may not want it to happen. We will need to learn how we cope with that going forward.
Bottom line is, email CRM marketing is going through a transition, I guess, is maybe not quite the right word, but it's going through a very, very exciting time. And I think those that are listening now, it's really, really embrace your CRM, your data, and obviously there's some tools available now that are going to make things a bit easier, but also they're sort of helping to make stores more profitable, because they're sort of opening up. When we talked about segmentation, it's better now. The ability to do more things, the ability to integrate more channels.
And you know what? It can make marketers' lives better by allowing them to concentrate on the things that they want to concentrate more on as well. We shouldn't lose sight of that.
Yeah, totally. Well, Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much.
I like to finish every episode with a couple of questions around, do you have a book that you'll recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, I may have gone slightly rogue here because I've gone for fiction.
I think that's fine. That's fine.
The book I'm going to mention is not actually the book I'm going to recommend. I'll come on to that. But
okay.
The talk of AI and technology and what I'm seeing happen and some of the fears around it, it makes me think of a John Steinbeck novel, which is The Great Wrath, which is ostensibly around the Great Depression, but it is also essentially about a book about technology, right? It's tractors and farming rather than anything else. But it's essentially a book around technology. But I thought that might be a bit close to the bone. So I picked another John Steinbeck novel, which is Cannery Row. So I think if you want something at the end of the day to turn off, read that. It's one of the most probably evocative books I've ever read.
Just say the name again, please, Michael.
Cannery Row. It's the name. It's by John Steinbeck, and it's essentially about a cannery. I think it's a sardine cannery. It sounds odd, and it is all set there. It's just about the people that
I'm intrigued already.
Yeah, there you go. But it's a very evocative book. If you want something to switch off, that'd be switch off. That's my recommendation.
Yeah. No, I will link that up in the show notes. I will get that ordered. I'm always intrigued when we get thrown a sort of a book that I've not heard of or not. We've done about 250 book recommendations now, so that's definitely a new one on me. Brilliant.
They all listed somewhere.
They're on the different episodes. Yeah, each episode's got them listed. Yeah. We should do a one pager with them all on. To be fair, I'll get somebody. I'll get my AI assistant to do that for me. I'll think about how somebody might slap me. Well, thanks for coming on the show. For those that want to sort of find out more about .digital, more about yourself, Michael, what's the best way to do that?
Ask your AI tool of choice. I'm sure it will tell you. Otherwise, you can go to .digital.com or Michael Duxbury on LinkedIn. It's probably the best place.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast. So you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next one.